My name is Emmeline, and today I'm going to teach you guys how to tack up a horse. So here with me today, come here girl, I have the horse that I lease here at Stony Bee Acres in Bernardston. Her registered name is Fletch's Playgirl, but here at the barn we call her PG for short. She is a 20-year-old mare, meaning she's a female, and we do pretty much anything Western riding together, the two of us. She's done lots of cow work, and currently we're showing together in ranch riding classes. So, the first step to tacking up your horse is always to give them a good brush and make sure they're clean. These are the 3 brushes I use on a daily basis. The first one is called a curry comb, and this one we use in circular motions just to work up any dirt, any dead fur or skin, anything that might be in her coat here. And it also stimulates blood flow to her back and her tissues, which is very good for her. And then the next brush would be our rougher bristled brush, and this is just going to get off any dirt that we just worked up with the curry comb. And last but not least, most importantly actually, is the hoof pick. So this is used to clean out her hooves and get any rocks, any gunk, stick, mud, whatever might be stuck in there that might cause her pain. That's not fun to walk on, right? So if you want to come around here, I'll show you her hoof. So this is her hoof. This triangle piece right here, this piece of meat, I guess, is called the frog, and that is very sensitive. So we don't want to disturb and hurt that at all, and we're going to pick out in these grooves here and around here. She doesn't have much feeling in her hoof. That's made out of cartilage, just like your fingernails are. And this right here is a muscle, so we don't want to hurt that. I've already picked out her feet, so they're already pretty clean. And then the last brush I would use is just a softer bristled brush, and I would come up, just get any hay, any dirt that might be on her face here, make her look pretty. So that's it for brushes. And after brushes would be our tack. This here is all Western riding tack. You can do pretty much anything with any saddle, but there's lots of different kinds of saddles for any different thing you might do with your horse. First off, we have your saddle pad. This is going to protect your horse's back from any rubbing, any pressure the saddle might put on her body. It's lined with natural sheep's wool, so this is moisture wicking. It helps with temperature regulation, it protects her back. Natural sheep's wool is really good for that because it's great in the summer as it doesn't make her too hot, and it's great in the winter because any sweat she might accumulate under the saddle pad is going to get wicked away rather than staying on her body and potentially making her colder. So this wants to be placed kind of center on her back. We can use this piece of leather here in order to make sure it's even and centered. This bump on her back right here is a bone called her wither, and the saddle pad's going to get placed kind of right on top of it to protect the wither from the saddle, any rubbing or pressure that might be applied here. They come in all different colors and patterns, so you can have fun with your saddle pads. Next would be the saddle. So this is a Western riding saddle. A Western saddle is typically defined by the shape of the seat, the size of the pommel here, the fact that it has a horn on it, as well as these large fenders down here that your leg will sit on when riding. And then down at the bottom there, we've got our stirrup. This part right here, this is called the girth, and this is what secures the saddle to your horse. This is also made out of natural felt of wool fibers, which does all the same things that the wool saddle pad does, and this will evenly distribute the weight of your saddle on underneath your horse, as well as keep it from sliding side to side or forward and back while you're riding. This piece attaches to this right here, which is called a billet, and then will come underneath your horse, which I'll demonstrate later, and attach to this piece of leather here, which is called the latigo. So, when we put our saddle on, we want to make sure that our pad is even again, like I said before. And when we swing the saddle up and onto her back, we don't want to slam it down onto her back really hard because that's going to hurt, right? So we kind of swing it. Once the saddle is on your horse, you want to come up here, pick your saddle up a bit, and kind of make a tent with your saddle pad so that that pressure is off of that wither bone like we talked about previously. So once we have our tent here, we can put our girth down and come around to the other side. Once again, just going to check I have a good tent under here and there's not a lot of pressure put on her wither. I'm going to take this latigo piece here. I'm just going to flip the stirrup up to get it out of my way and bring the girth underneath her belly. So the girth wants to sit kind of in this girth groove of her tummy. You can kind of see where it naturally wants to fall. And then the buckle right here kind of wants to be in line with her armpit, I guess you could call it, or her shoulder. The latigo is going to feed through the back up through this D-ring right here in the saddle, and then back down through the D-ring on the latigo. And then we'll pull it tight and just make sure all these pieces of leather are flat here. And we like to cinch it up or pull it up slowly, because you don't want to yank on it tight as if you were putting a corset on or something. Your horse is not going to like that. And it's going to clip in right there. And we can give this piece of leather right here a little tug just to pull that right there flat. The latigo is kept up in this little keeper right here so that it's not flapping around, potentially risking your horse stepping on it or your girth falling off. And if that falls off, so will you. Just gonna fix this little piece of leather here. So lastly, we have our sport boots. These are very important because they support the tendons and ligaments in her feet from any pressure while riding. If she were to accidentally kick herself in the front with a back foot, these would protect her from that. When running and performing and doing strenuous maneuvers, this is what's going to protect her tendons from any pressure. Basically acts as shock absorption for when she's running very fast or slamming her hooves into the ground very hard because she's running up a hill or jumping over logs. When we put these on, they're gonna sit right here on her coffin bone and on the inside of her leg in here. You can't really see it, but if I were to flip it around, this protects her hock, which is this ankle bone joint right here. When we buckle them, we always want the Velcro to go towards the back so that when we're tightening it, it's putting pressure on the coffin bone in the front rather than the tendons in the back of her leg here. And I'll go put the other one on the other side. And once again, Velcro towards the back. back and towards the back. All right. And then our last piece of tack here is our bridle. So this is what goes on your horse's head and gives you reins. There's many different kinds of bridles and many different kinds of mouthpieces, or what you would call the bit. This right here is called an Argentine snaffle bit. This works, it's single jointed in the middle, meaning that when it lays in her mouth, it kind of is in a V shape on her tongue. The single joint allows for the pressure to differentiate from side to side, meaning when I apply pressure on this rein, it is only going to affect that side of the bit. This part of the bit right here is called the shank. This determines the length of this, that determines how much pressure or determines how much leverage you have when applying pressure to your rein. This chain under here is called the curb chain. This rests outside of the horse's mouth, underneath its chin or its jaw, and this also creates external pressure underneath her chin, which lifts her head up underneath herself. When I apply pressure with the rein, it lifts the bit over here and the curb chain underneath. This top part right here is called this bit right here is called the purchase. So the purchase and the length of this part on top affects how quickly the bit reacts when you apply pressure with the rein. So if it's longer, it'll take a little bit longer for your connection to the rein to connect to her mouth. And if it's shorter, when you touch your rein, the bit is much quicker to respond to that pressure. Up here at the top, we have a single earpiece, so this helps the bridle stay on her head. Other bridles will have a brow band, which goes across the forehead rather than around the ear. And this really just depends on the horse and the rider, whatever your horse prefers and whatever you prefer. This doesn't have much effect on how the bridle works other than just how it stays on their head. The reins, these reins are called split reins, meaning they're split in two rather than one big loop. I also just prefer to ride in split reins, and when doing different things while riding, different kinds of reins are necessary. So this is for ranch riding, meaning I'm doing patterns in the arena rather than, let's say, if I was roping and lassoing a cow, I would want reins that are connected so that I can put my reins down and have them not fall off. So I'm gonna come around and put the bridle on her, and I'll show you guys how that works. Alright, PG, just come back here for me, girl. So I'm just gonna throw the reins over her neck so that when I take the halter off, if I had to, I could grab her by this. I'm gonna take the halter off. Now she's really great about taking the bit in her mouth. She'll kind of take it herself. But when I hold this for her, see, she kind of puts her head down and she'll just slip it right into her mouth for you. And then here's that single earpiece like I was talking about before. Just sits right around her ear like that. Now that the bridle is on, you can see that the curb chain goes underneath her jaw under here, and the bit, I know. And the bit, she won't let me show you, but I was gonna pick up her lip so you could see where it sits in her mouth. Let's see. Oh, I know, life's so hard. Oh, I know. You can see here that she has front teeth, and then there's actually a gap in her mouth. Okay, Pete. She has her front teeth here, and then there's actually a gap in her teeth where the bit sits. So she actually has no teeth in this section of her face and has molars back here in her mouth. So it actually isn't on her teeth at all. It sits in that gap between her front teeth and her back molars. She does not like her teeth being touched, so she's very upset that I had to do that to her. But yeah, that's pretty much all that there is to tacking up a horse. And this is just Western riding, an English saddle that you would see people doing jumping with, or say dressage, which is more of like a different form of movement that the horse does, will have a completely different saddle. The saddle won't have a pommel or a horn. It won't have fenders at all, and it will look very different. So this is just for Western riding. And last but not least, I'll get my helmet on. Get my helmet on. I'll put my reins on either side of her neck. And I'll check the girth one more time, see, because it's a little loose. So you always want to make sure your girth is tightened and secure, because you don't want your saddle slipping around and falling off while you're riding. And we'll hop on. So that's it. Thank you, PG, for putting up with me for this. And that's how you tack up a horse.